Welcome to Know His Love Stories, where we listen to the voice of the Father through his children. Today's story comes to us from Anna. She is half Polish and half Danish and is currently working as a psychologist in Denmark. In addition to her deep passion for helping couples, Anna also loves going on pilgrimages as she deepens her own relationship with God. This is a Know His Love story.
So I grew up Catholic. I was baptized in the Catholic Church because my mom is Catholic, but my dad is an atheist. So I kind of grew up with both sides, let's say. And I always went to church and grew up in the Catholic Church, but it was never really personal for me. So I would say that for a long time in my life, when I was young, I didn't really know him personally. So when I went to high school, I had a really difficult time. And the first year, it was just very chaotic for me. I came to a big school and the culture wasn't the best. I was in a class where I felt very lonely, and it was just generally like a very difficult time for me. And then during that year, my mom invited me to go for a retreat. It was a Polish retreat, but it was in Denmark. And I didn't really want it to go. I was like, not sure. I don't know anyone. I was very introverted at that point. So it seemed very scary for me to go on a weekend with people I don't know. But somehow I ended up going. And I think that was like a really big change in my life, where I felt Jesus personally. So it was the first time that I even knew that like God was personal and like he wanted a personal relationship with me. So I would say that all that time until that point in my life, so I was around 16 when that happened, until that time I didn't really know his love personally. And how it's like it really affected me in a lot of ways, because it means if there is no God who like he's there, but he's not very personally interacting with me, and it's not like super engaging in my life, that makes me stand very alone, right? Then I'm very lonely and I have to fight for my image. I have to make a good impression, and all of that kind of anxiety that I felt made me also very closed up in myself, because I didn't really have, I would say, I like this image of like a cup, right? When it's completely empty, then it doesn't really have anything to give from. So I just felt like I didn't have anything to give to others, because I was so anxious and just felt like I was surviving, like I didn't really have much love to give, because I didn't have it for myself either. And I think my image of God was also very much that like he created the world, which is great, but he was also a very strict God, and he didn't really actually love me. Like when I think about it, I felt like if I did something wrong, he would be angry at me and I couldn't go back to him for forgiveness, which I know is not very Catholic, but like when I just think about my way of thinking, that's what I actually was thinking, until that turning point where it changed. So I went on that retreat, and something that was really what made that turning point was I came to confession after a really long time. I haven't been for at least half a year, because I was so ashamed and didn't want to open up, and I ended up doing so. And I came to a priest. He's an amazing priest, and he was sitting there in the confession, and he just received me and said like, what's hurting your heart? And that just, I was so confused, because I knew this, like what you have to say, like the formal. So I was preparing for that, and then he asked me this question, and I was so confused, like what does that have to do with anything, right? Like, isn't this supposed to be confession or what? And but I just like heard his question, and it moved me so much, that I just started telling him about all these things that have been on my heart, and it just was really hurting me. And I felt so received and so just like loved in the ugliness of what I did. And that was just amazing to me. I was like, whoa, I did not expect this at all. And it was just a very, very healing moment for me, that like if he can love me even in what is really ugly in me and what is really bad, like, wow, that changes everything. Um, and then we had adoration afterwards, and it was very beautiful. Like the priest brought Jesus, and like he came to each one of us, so it was very personal, also like physically, like, you know, I it was really one to one with Jesus in the Eucharist. Um and uh and I just felt something in my heart that was also really, it's really powerful. I like to think about it as like a spiritual hug in a way. That I felt so lonely at that point, but then um and in that moment I just didn't, like, I just felt like I was home. Um so so that changed a lot, because suddenly before I was, you know, in this like survival mode all the time, like I had to really perform to be someone and to be liked and so on, and suddenly I felt at home, so I felt like I could rest, and I didn't really have to do all these things that I had to do before. So that made me, it's a long process, it's not like it changed overnight. But I remember thinking that day, like there is no turning back from this day. Like I just knew that it was a big day for me. um, and that like this is a journey, like it's going to start now with Jesus, and I don't want life without him. And I really felt like it was like that. Now it's almost 10 years ago, and it has been such a wild ride after that. Like it's really a journey, and I don't think that it's like, to answer your question about like how did it affect how I saw God and other people and myself, it didn't change overnight for sure, but it has been like a gradual, slow process of I think him opening me up to be able to see others more around me, and not being so like focused on myself all the time, and just having to feel like I have to perform or to like do everything I can just to survive, because I know that he is upholding me, and I can just like rest in his arms. So yeah, but it's a process, and I'm still sometimes very self-centered, and like it's not like it just changed overnight, but I just feel this like slow process of how I'm more loving towards myself, I have more trust in God, and I have more love to give to others, during the journey in a way. I think it's a truth that I have to keep reminding myself of. Um, and I like, it's in a way it's quite simple, but it's so deep that I just feel like I have to keep contemplating about that truth the rest of my life, because I don't think I fully understand it yet. Um, of like how powerful it is to be able to claim that, to be a beloved daughter of God, like that really has such impact on me and my life. Like it changes the whole narrative in a way. And I see how sometimes when I drift away from that truth a bit, or I forget that I'm a beloved daughter of God, I start becoming really anxious, and I start um, like taking the control myself. And I really see how it changes when I forget that truth. On the other hand, when I really rest in that truth of being a beloved daughter of God, um, I just feel like I can rest in that. And yeah, it's I also feel like my life has purpose and meaning suddenly, because I'm not just here, like I'm not just like a like some cells put together, and but I'm actually, there's a father who cares for me, and he wants me to be here, and he wants me because of love. And that's just like, that's a completely different story of my life. Then yeah, I really like to just like bring my desires to God and tell him about small things that are on my heart. um, and I've had many small or big moments in my life where I felt like he was really paying attention to my heart, and like I brought desires, and he showed me his love in very creative and beautiful ways. One situation that pops up in my thoughts now is, once I went on a retreat in Ireland, and I was just there for the weekend, so I didn't really go to have cash. I just thought, oh, my card is just enough for me to be able to get around and so on. But somehow I couldn't use it in the bus, so I had to walk back from the retreat center um, to the other bus to the airport. It doesn't matter. The the what happened was that I was walking through the city. It was quite a long walk, and then I stopped by, like there was a church on the right side, and I just felt something in me moving. I was like, oh, I just feel like I have to go there, and I don't really know why I had that thought, but I just felt like I'm supposed to go in there. And so I did, and it happened to be a convent of the Poor Clares, and Saint Clare of Assisi is my favorite saint. So whenever I see her or like something reminds me of her, I just feel the joy of like, oh, that's my friend. So I was just so happy to like see that convent, and I went there to pray a bit. And then I noticed that that day I was wearing a dress that is like the same colors that St. Clair is usually portrayed in. So I just felt this whole like, connection of um I just brought this, like I was talking a lot with God in prayer about St. Clair those days, and then I felt like he just led me there, just to show me his love. So yeah, another time I brought to prayer that I really wanted to go skiing one winter. And I was going to Arizona to meet my friend who was living there at that time. And Arizona is usually quite warm, right? So it's like, no chance that I'm going to go skiing this year, but maybe some other year. I will just tell you, Jesus, that this is my desire. So if there's any ever a chance, just remember that I would really like to. Um, and then we were in Flagstaff, and my friend Lexi asked me if I would like to go skiing tomorrow, maybe. I was like, what? I had no clue that that's even possible here. But it is, it was. So I mean, of course, you can just say, "Oh, that's a coincidence," but I just really felt like it was a beautiful little like love note from God that I could actually go skiing with my friend that day. So yeah, I love these small ways of like God knowing me as a person and like what I like and what I desire, and then just showing me like, oh, I can do this for you. Like I want to see you be happy. So yeah, I think I would actually focus more on just being there for them rather than specific things that I would say. I'm thinking about uh, I've had a season in my life lately where I had a lot of doubts as well for the first time in many years. And my my good friend Sophia, she was uh, just really there for me in it. Like I shared my doubts with her, like how I'm just really not feeling like God is present, and I'm like even like wondering if he's there at all. And it was really strange for me to feel this way because I haven't for a long time. And I was just like amazed by, she was just like listening. She wasn't shocked, like she wasn't shaming me for feeling the way I felt. Like she was just sitting there with me in it. And I was just thinking, like, wow, this is what I would also like to do with someone who is in the same situation. Like, because I feel like when we are doubting God, it's also that we don't believe that he is who he says he is. Um, so to be kind of that antidote of like, if I have a friend who is thinking like, oh, maybe God is actually not good after all, then I want to be a little bit of that goodness to show like, okay, it's possible, goodness exists, and to just be there for the person. And maybe also explore a bit, like, because I think sometimes also it's a little psychological, if maybe we had a difficult time in our lives, and like and then we start maybe blaming God for it, or like there can be so many reasons why suddenly we have doubts, or we feel like God is far away. So just maybe talk about it, or like find out what is the person thinking about God at the moment. So yeah, and of course words of encouragement, I think it's also good, but I think mostly just being there for the person and finding out what they need in it.
Thank you for listening to Anna's story. I would love to share your story as well. Please connect with us on social media or by clicking on the Join Us link at knowHis.love.